Welcome back to the Human Nexus podcast. My name is Andrew Brazis. I am a marketing and business consultant and a private chef.
My name is Miss Laura Machiste. I am an online tarot reader, holistic massage therapist, and spiritual coach. And today we are going to be talking about dreams and portals from someone who has had a lot of weird dreams in my experience, which actually is what really got me onto the spiritual path and figuring out what my dreams were, because I had a lot of dreams that I was growing up that ended up happening or connected to something in the physical. And that's really what got me to realize, like, hold on, something's weird. Did I have a dream about this a couple days ago? And now here it's connected to something or actually happening in the same way that it happened in a dream. So I'm going to give my most recent experience with dreams and the other side. And Andrew, you know some of this story, but I saved a little bit of it for today because I wanted to get your reaction in real time. So basically, my car has been having issues for about a month now. And when my dad was alive, he was the car guy. Like, he brought us to get our cars fixed. He would let us use his car. He was so prominent on making sure, we didn't get, what's the word I'm looking for? Scammed by like mechanics and stuff like that.
Which is
So,
probably super common for you as a
right,
female.
as a
Yeah.
female.
Yeah.
So my dad like found a mechanic in this town that like we could trust and we could go to and like stuff like that. So he was his friend for like years living here, and now he's just indirectly our mechanic and friend now too. So basically what happened was my car was making weird noises. I was bringing it to get it fixed, and I brought it to the dealership. They made it worse. It started leaking, but I didn't know that it was leaking yet. So I had a dream of my dad, and he told me a sentence that I don't feel like made sense at the moment, but I think he was just trying to give me the indication of the color. And he told me in my dream this past Sunday morning into Monday, which I do want to ask what you think about that as well, of like, when do we have dreams? Like, more before we wake up or like when we're sleeping? Um, and so basically, he told me to remember to wear the red dress, which I had no idea what he was talking about. And then he told me, go ahead. Did you want to
No,
say
I
something?
was I was just gonna say, like, when you told me that, immediately thought of the Matrix, like how that was like the thing that like breaks the Matrix, or I don't remember exactly the reason for it, but it was like the thing to watch out for, which is just interesting.
See, that is interesting because I've never watched The Matrix, but I know my dad has watched The Matrix. So
Mhm.
maybe he was just kind of like giving me something. I
Mhm.
feel like they do that specifically as well. Like, they know that I'll pay attention, they know that I'm observant. So I feel like I get a lot of signs from people who've died,
Mhm.
just because they know that I'm paying attention. So obviously, my dad knew, like, she's going to pay attention to me in a dream. And so he told me to remember to wear the red dress. And then he told me to tell them I'm interstellar, which I didn't really know what that meant. I just knew stellar
Oh
meant
yeah. Yeah.
stars.
Uh-huh.
So possibly I'm going with, he was saying, tell them I'm like one with the stars or something like that. Um, Not really sure. Didn't make sense to me at all. I'm like, all right, I wrote it down, moved on with my life. A couple hours later, my friend sends me my name on a car in red. So then I put two and two
Mhm.
together, and I'm like, I think my dad is telling me this car situation is not over yet. Like, there's still more to it. I just didn't know what it was. So then the next day, I see that there is a puddle of oil, engine oil leaking from my car. The button, you know how like the dashboard will turn on the light? Like, oh, you need fuel, and it's orange. So the fuel, not the fuel, the engine oil light was red. And when it popped up on my dashboard, it was red, but like I have a car that also shows it to you on the screen. And then that
Mhm.
whole thing was red. So I just thought that it was like absolutely insane that my dad, who is dead, was able to tell me that my car is moving into red, quote unquote. I've studied color theory, danger mode. And
Interesting.
when I called the mechanic, he was like, "You cannot drive this car. This is dangerous. Like any leakage like that, like fumes, electric, like it's just not the combination that you want." So I just thought, and even before the car registered, it was leaking. Like, how
Mm,
did my dad know that? Like,
yeah.
how is it that they're not here if he was able to tell me that before even I figured it out or the car itself figured out that it was having issues?
Yeah,
So,
that's so strange. And since then, has anything else like new happened? I mean, after any, I don't know, new dreams? Because that was what, 3, 4 days ago?
yeah, no, this was recent. I haven't had any new dreams,
Mm,
but I've definitely feel like the dream followed by my friends sending me my name on a car. I feel like
mm,
they were using both of those to tell me, like, look, you think your car is okay, but it's really not. Like, don't drive it, like this, that, and the other. And kind of like free will
mm.
also, where I feel like it was more like maybe not night dreams where I'm sleeping, but more of like daydreams since that
Yeah.
moment where I can like see myself driving something different or not being in that car or saving myself from something. So I almost feel like free will, decision, signs, synchronicities, like they give you these warnings, but I could have chose to ignore it and continue to drive the car. You know what I mean? And then who would have
Hmm.
known what would have happened? So I definitely feel like he came through a dream to give me that, like, you think everything's okay, but it's not. And that's why he used the color red. Because
Yeah.
not like I don't want to scare people from the color red, but if you study color theory, it will show you like red is not the greatest sign to get with things.
Interesting. And yeah, I think that's so wild to me that it happened prior, the car issue, and then the red color is pretty crazy, like seeing on a license plate, and
Hmm.
then showing up in your car. Um, yeah, when you started getting into dreams first, like dream interpretation, understanding
Yeah.
them, like
So
tell me more
dreams,
about that.
yeah. So dreams was always first. Before
Hmm.
I got into anything, before I even knew that like zodiac signs and all this stuff existed. Like to go back to like the last thing we talked about, I was always having like really horrible nighttime experiences. I would wake up, but when I opened my eyes, like I couldn't see anything. So you know how like when you go to sleep and you turn off the lights, at first it's like dark, but then your eyes
Hmm.
adjust. My eyes weren't adjusting. So I would
Hmm.
automatically freak out and like look for a way to like escape, I guess.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Hmm.
Um, and I would like bang on window with the windows in my room. I would like bang on the door, and like one of the times, like it got so bad that like I wouldn't sleep over people's houses because I was scared that that was going to happen to me. So I knew the nighttime was trying to tell me something growing up. This was like from like maybe like 3 years old to like 8 years old. And it got really intense when I couldn't find my way out of my room when this was happening one of the times. And you know how people put mirrors on the back of their doors?
Hmm.
I ripped the mirror off and it shattered everywhere. Like I was bleeding. I was
Oh
like,
my goodness.
it looked like a horror scene. Like I put my hand on the wall and you saw like the skid of the hand mark go down.
And you were like, so you were like what would you call it? Like sleepwalking almost?
I want to say sleep freaking out because like I
Yeah.
don't feel like I wasn't
Like you
like
weren't coherent.
calm.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I wasn't calm about it. Like I was
Yeah.
hyperventilating trying to figure out why I couldn't see. And
Mm,
then eventually it stopped, and then I just started to have weird dreams where one of the weirdest ones where I started to be like, okay, hold on, things are weird is I think around in high school where I had a dream that someone was going to tell me something
hmm.
and they told me what they said, but they said it in the exact words that I heard in the dream. And that's what made me be like, okay, no, there's no way. To the
Yeah.
T of the words, that makes no sense that this would
Yeah,
happen.
that's like deja vu premonition territory, right?
Right.
Yeah. Yeah,
And then
that's
I
so
just started
strange.
dreaming of dead people once my
Yeah.
family started to die off. Oh
And
my God,
then
that
so
sounds bad.
you were
Oh my God.
connecting with them via dreams,
Yeah.
essentially. Yeah. Yeah.
So I had a dream that before we took my grandfather off of life support,
Hmm.
I had a dream of him the night before. And all I remember him saying was, tell them you saw me. And now that I'm thinking about it, he said to tell them something. And then the other day, my dad told me to tell them something. So I don't know why they're trying to tell people stuff. Um,
Interesting.
yeah.
It's
So
like
then the
they
next,
know that you're tuned in.
right. It's like they know I'm listening. There's
Yeah.
something with it. I don't know if it's because I'm a Pisces and we're ruled by the 12th house of dreams or what, but it gets weird.
That
And
is
that was
very
probably one of my
weird.
hardest moments when
Yeah.
I saw him. And then we were in the hospital in my dream. And then when I went to the hospital the next day, I'm the crazy one. Like, no, I saw
Mhm.
him last night. Like, don't take him off. Like, blah, blah, blah. I was like devastated. Um, yeah, that was
Yeah.
basically the beginning of it.
Yeah, that's pretty wild. I don't know if I really can remember like a beginning dream
Mm,
like story. I know like when I was little, I would have super vivid dreams, but I would have like a lot of sleep paralysis for sure, which is probably I grew up in like a lack of a better word, like trauma-filled household. So it could be some of that too. But seeing like, like sleep paralysis, if you fall asleep and you wake up and you're like your body's essentially still dreaming, but like your eyes are open, or at least seemingly.
mm,
So like that's opened up a lot of really strange, sometimes good, but generally not great experiences. But I've also had like weird dream experiences with like other people. Like one that I can think of that sticks out. I want to say it was like high school-ish. Um, there was like this was like right when I started dabbling or getting really deep into like meditation, and I was
mm.
deep into a website called International Starseeds,
Hmm.
which is, are you familiar with this?
No.
Um, so it was like the Reddit of, I don't know, people who are into
Mm,
mysticism stuff on the internet. It still exists today. So if you're watching this, you want to go check it out, it's there. I think it's internationalstarseeds.com or .net, but just a big forum for just all things esoteric and conspiracy or whatever.
oh, I like
And yeah, I was really deep into those forums as like a teenager who at that point has deconstructed their faith.
that. Hmm.
And one dream that stands out, it was really interesting. I remember in the dream I was outside of my parents' home on like a hill, and I had a, a a male friend and a female friend with me, and we were kind of like I like remember I don't know if you've had this experience like when you come to inside of a dream and like it becomes kind of lucid. Have you ever had this?
Where you can control it.
Yes, but like you're just like fully aware that you're dreaming
Yes,
for
yes, yes.
sure. Yeah.
Hmm.
So that happened, and the moment that that happened, I looked over at my friends on the hill. It feels like real to me, right? Because I'm
Hmm.
like, I don't like I know I'm dreaming, but I don't really feel like I'm dreaming kind of thing. And I see this like rainbow entity come out of the sky, and it
Wow.
stops in front of me and my, two friends who are both like completely uh like static, not moving, completely just like focused forward, like really like creepy, weird, like stuff you've seen horror movies. Um, and then this thing like points at these people individually and like zaps them with something and they like disappear.
Oh.
And I know it's like coming, so I'm like, oh shit. And like I kind of like get anxious, panic happens to me. Um, and the thing that did it like like kind of looked like the Silver Surfer from like the Marvel series, kind of, but like
Hmm.
rainbow. But
Right.
like not like human-esque, but not human-esque, um, or human-esque, but not human. And then I like snap to, and I'm like in this room, and I have this like weird jumpsuit on, and everything's white, and there's this like board, like there's like 5 or 10 entities, and they're
Oh,
like human-esque, but not, again, like not human.
right.
And I was like being judged. And essentially, they were like, "Oh yeah, he's not ready," or "This being's not ready." And then I remember like basically falling down a tube, like
Oh
being
my
ejected.
God.
And then I woke up and I was like, "What the hell just happened?" And like, I was, I don't know, 15, 16, 14, something like that. But for some reason, that dream has stuck with me for a long time. I mean, still now, it's like extremely vivid. Um, yeah, and I have lots of like weird things like that I've dreamed about that stuck. Like there's obviously dreams where I don't know, like if you were having some sort of problem for the week or the day that come up and it's like, you
Hmm.
know, you're psychologically processing what's happening. Like that's
Right.
something. But then like these other dreams are just a little bit beyond that. Um, I've also had ones to where like
Wait,
I'm
time
other,
out.
yeah,
What
yeah,
do
go
you
ahead.
think those beings were? Like
I have no idea.
archangels, your
I
spirit
have
guides? Like, did
I
you
have no
think of
idea.
anything? Oh, you
I
still.
think no, I mean if it could be anything, I, my beliefs then and my beliefs now are like completely different. Not completely,
Mm-hmm.
but like definitely more evolved, I would say. Um, at the time, I was like, I mean, it felt like I was like violated, like not physically, but like like spiritually or whatever. Like it just was like it just felt like gross.
Right.
Um,
And they told you weren't ready and ejected you out. So, like, that's
yeah,
rude.
yeah, super.
Jeez.
And I don't the presence there, this is something else too. Like for me, dreaming is like really strange because I pick up on energies like while I'm dreaming,
Mm.
and the energies there were like extremely foreign. Like for example, I did a tarot, or sorry, a Ouija board
Oh my
with
gosh.
one of my mentors, and we essentially
Hmm.
contacted my grandfather,
Oh, wow.
and I was like, okay, well, come visit me. You know, I mean, there was other things there. That was like how it ended. And the next night, I had like my whole entire dreaming time was just him and I sitting down and like conversing about life, and it was amazing. But it was like
Wow.
extremely vivid, and it was like the energy was his. Like it
That's
felt
amazing.
familiar in that sense. Yeah, it was really good. It was really confirming too, of like just like using a Ouija board and like the safety of that, and leading
Hmm.
into that or saying that, um, going into like portals.
Yeah.
This is a just a very small transition, but the like Ouija board, at least the way it was explained to me through my mentor, she would say that the Ouija board essentially opens up a portal and it's kind of like your responsibility to close it. And there's like a
Mm.
process for that. And that's why most people have bad experiences because they don't close it. And so if the
Right.
portal stays open, who, what, where, whatever can, go move freely. And then it becomes, this problem point for people.
How do you close the portal?
Oh, I don't. I actually have notes on it in a
Oh.
folder somewhere, but I don't have anything. I I want to say it's like just really simple, like stating your intention and
Hmm.
like being grateful and appreciative of like the energy and the experience, and then
Right.
just straightly saying, "Okay, I'm done here. I'm now closing, this portal or this energy, whatever." And again, I haven't done it since, so I don't
Hmm.
like I don't know if that's, valid or not, but I think personally, like if you're dealing with any sort of like energy or, magic or whatever you want to call it, you should probably be like careful and not just like willy-nilly about it, which is like
Yeah.
dealing. Have you had any like bad experiences? Like,
I mean, I don't mess with anything. I don't mess with
yeah,
nothing. I definitely feel like, I don't know. I almost feel like I am a portal. Does that make
yeah.
sense? Like,
Hmm.
I feel like I never felt like I had to try, which actually does, now that I'm thinking about it, kind of does feel like an invasion of privacy.
Hmm.
Um, because now I'm like, well, yeah, why y'all just coming in and I didn't tell you guys to. But I guess with going off of that, I don't know. I feel like, yeah, I feel like I don't ask, I don't talk that much. I kind of just, it just happens in a
Yeah, you
sense.
just let it happen, which is really interesting. Yeah.
I don't even know if I let it happen. I almost feel like maybe in my beginning of stages of life, like when I was like freaking out, they were probably like maybe like what those like beings told you, like, oh, she not ready. And we trying to make her
Hmm.
ready at like a too young of age. And she's just like going absolutely wild. Like I thought like literally like something was wrong with me. It's almost like sleep paralysis, but I could move my body. I just couldn't
Yeah.
see anything.
I'm very
So
glad I couldn't move my body because that would be bad. Like, because it's
did you
just like
see
terrifying.
something?
Oh yeah. Like I've seen all kinds of like weird stuff. But again, it's hard to like, again, I'm a skeptic, like a huge skeptic. So like if I'm in sleep paralysis mode,
Mm-hmm.
then it was like, I mean, I don't like if I see something that's like, let's say, could be associated with like something that's demonic, right? And it's like super
Mm.
scary. I don't like looking back now, I'm like, it could be anything. That could be like my own, anxiety or something that was
Right,
manifesting because I was paralyzed. Um,
right, right.
but like lately, no, like there hasn't been anything serious. But I think the last, well, sh should I don't know if I should share like dark scare stories because I have like really like not positive, like dark, scary, like bad dreams that are like
Mm-hmm.
super vivid and like what's the word? I don't like not normal. They're not just like your run of the mill, oh, this was a nightmare. It was like I feel like I've had dreams where I've felt physically attacked and there was like signs of physical like changes on my body after waking up. And I've also had dreams on the other spectrum where
Hmm.
like I've had like really magical experiences and like seen, felt, been around like really healing energies or whatever people, beings, and then woke up
Well,
and like felt renewed and amazing.
I feel like saying one of each would be good because that'll give a nice sense of duality because like that
Yeah,
is life, you know, like it's
sure.
not always going to be rainbows, sunshines and angels in
Mm,
your dreams. Sometimes they're going to be like really scary or like a warning sign or something that actually like does do something to you, which I would like to know about.
yeah. Okay. So the most recent past, I mean, I say recent, this was like 10 years ago, but um no, it's like 6, 7 years ago. Anyways, I was in a like a farmhouse out in the middle of like nowhere. This is the place that I lived. And the house was probably one of the oldest in the area. So like it was built in like the 1850s. Um, and some of the history with the house was when people in the surrounding area, it was a rural area, so people like would pass through very infrequently. But when they did, if somebody was sick, they would take them
Mm.
to the second floor of the house, and that's where they would like let them. There's a name, there's a specific window that is named for like people viewing out the window near the end of death. I don't know the name, but um,
Is this a dream and physical energy?
so this was the physical location. So
Oh,
this
okay.
is this is the house that I was in. And it was super dense, like energetically, just all the
Mm.
time. Um, but I was sleeping downstairs and like we actually didn't spend much time upstairs because it was just so heavy and kind of like weird.
Why were
But
you there?
it was just a place I was living. It was a
Oh,
time in
okay.
my life. Yeah.
Okay.
Um, but one night I went to sleep and I essentially had this like dark entity jump on the bed and like try to kill me. Like it was like suffocating me, choking me.
Oh my gosh.
Um, and the next day, I'm leaving out lots of details here just for brevity, but the next day I got diagnosed with strep. And that
Wow.
was the only time I've ever had strep in my life. and I was extremely insanely sick for like 14 days. It was really bad. Um, yeah, it was really intense, and I was honestly like terrified
Oh
for
my gosh.
like the evenings, like evening of and then after, just like this weird
Hmm.
sense of fear and terror that didn't quite make sense. You know
Was
what I
this
mean?
around
Like,
like the same time you were like doing those like things?
mm,
Like I associate a like those types of like magic as something that like I don't go towards because
mhm.
of the repercussions of those types of
Yeah,
things. So that's why I want to know like were you practicing anything at that
mm,
time that may have like
no.
welcomed in that energy, or do you feel like it was from that house?
I don't know what it was from, but I
Mm.
know in that time I was very like much not like reading tarot. Like I wasn't really dabbling in anything at all.
Right,
So those energies, I don't know if I wouldn't have done anything then to open that up.
right.
Um, yeah, but it was just really insane. Um, and to have like strep is the worst thing I've ever had. Like it's not fun.
Mm-hmm.
And to have
Yeah.
it the one time, like literally day after, I mean almost like I guess day of, night happens,
Mm-hmm.
and then I'm like feeling not well and I go get tested and I have strep. But
My
so
gosh. Not
yeah,
the
so that was a
ghost
really rough
gave you
one.
strep throat.
Yeah. So
Jeez.
um and yeah, I don't know. Like just to be clear, I don't know what happened still, you
Right.
know. Like it was this really strange coincidence. Um and then a really good one. I'm trying to think of maybe like a recent one that I want to share. I think the best one that I've had, well, actually, yeah, better yet, no, the best one I had, I think, was with my grandfather, like sitting down and like
Mm,
talking to him, and I didn't really get to spend a lot of time with him, like in life. So
right.
it was just a really good, nice transition. And I think I was skeptical about like just mysticism and like especially like
Mm,
the Ouija board. And I was kind of learning tarot at the time. That was like when I was being mentored with the Switch. And that was like the thing that sealed it for me because the
right.
things that we talked about were things that he would have talked to me about.
Mm,
Um, and just like some of the insights I got from it were just really, I don't know, good. And it was,
mm.
yeah,
That's
healing
what
in that
happened
way.
to my mom. That's what happened to my mom too. She has been like indirectly influenced by like me
Hmm.
and doing all this stuff, but she didn't when my dad passed away, she like wasn't really like fully sure like if they're still here or not. And she had a dream of him and he asked her to ask me, "Where's the watch?" And in the dream, I walked in, gave him the watch, and he opened up the watch and like was writing down the numbers on it. Now, all watches have numbers, right? But in the dream, he's like, he was writing it down like something was like encrypted in the watch, like something was important on there, like something about numbers. And I was like, well, maybe he was just trying to prove to you that he's still here because he gave me a watch that has roulette numbers all over it. Like it's an actual like roulette wheel on the
Hmm.
watch. So that like really helped my mom realize like, oh, how would he have told me this? Like I didn't know that this watch existed, but it did. And he was able to tell her without like anybody else telling her and her having just even like a glimpse of thought that this watch
Yeah.
is in someone's room or something like that. So that makes a lot of sense into the connection of there's just some things that happen in dreams that it's like, well, how is this not them?
Yeah.
How would
Yeah.
they know this?
It's so hard to like when something like that happens, it's hard to like deny that dreams don't hold like some sort of weight, you know, the right ones at least.
Right. Exactly.
Do you have any portal experiences? Like not yourself, but like maybe outside people you know or anything?
So basically, I have two different portal experiences, which actually one of them is recent. Well, both of them are kind of recent. So my sister is in the room next to me, and she is more of like the witchy spiritual. Like I'm more of like
Mm-hmm.
a energy type of person where like I learned how to read energy without like needing anything else.
Mm-hmm.
And she was more in the like the bay leaves, the cinnamon, and the lighting it on fire and stuff like that, and just like all of those things. She actually is the one who bought me my first tarot deck, so she got me into all this stuff. And she would do all these things in her room. And I remember like when my dad was alive, she would like light Palo Santos, and he hated the smell of it. And he'd be like, "Stop with that shit, turn it off," like whatever. Which I definitely feel like sage smells better than Palo Santos.
Mm-hmm.
I definitely have to agree to an extent. But anyway, so she did all this stuff in there. When she moved out and to live in an apartment, my close friend at the time was breaking up with her boyfriend, and she had nowhere to live. And I was like, well, you're my close friend. My sister don't live in there. So at least like between your transitioning of finding somewhere, my sister's room is open. I'd love for you to like be there. If my mom's okay with it, that's great. So whatever, she moved in. We made vision boards in my
Mm-hmm.
sister's room. My friend name is Courtney, because now I'm gonna have to say and not just say my friend. So Courtney made her vision board. I made my vision board. Courtney left her vision board in my sister's room. I brought
Mm-hmm.
my vision board to my room and like wherever I put it. The vision board fell behind the dresser that she used to do. My sister used to do all the magic on. And mind you, she took only some things. She left a bunch of stuff in there. So some of those things were still hers. I kid you not, 6 months later, everything that Courtney wrote on her vision board happened. She met her boyfriend. She moved out into his house. She got a job, like almost every single thing on her vision board. And it fell where my sister did magic, basically. So we put two and two together, like, oh, she must have opened a portal in here. Like something must be open there, because how is it that yours manifested in hyperspeed and mine? But like mine's a little bit different. Like my vision board was not like husband and vacations and stuff like
Mm-hmm.
that. Like mine was like community and helping people and like all that stuff. So like not to say it didn't come to life, but it was just like so much more specific for hers. Like, and then she had on there that she wanted to like grow a family, and that person that she met while she was living here, she now has a baby with him, and the baby's like a
That's
month old.
crazy.
So
Yeah,
her whole vision board came to life in my sister's portal. So I believe she opened a portal in there.
it was very interesting. Um, yeah, I don't. The manifestation stuff is real, and I'm sure we'll talk about that eventually.
Yeah, and putting it like into paper, like vision board, writing things down. Like I have a bunch of stories about that as well. But in terms of the portal, with
Hmm.
that happening, and I was in there when Courtney moved out, I had my desk where I would read tarot in the position where I felt like the portal was. And when I was in that room, I feel like there was just a little bit more sprinkle on the readings.
Hmm.
Sometimes sprinkle that I didn't want though. So that kind of makes sense as to why you're saying the portal kind of like, well, you have to close it. I kind of feel like possibly the way
Well,
that like
something else too that I learned in that time was like blessing things. Like my mentor took that
mm,
very seriously, and she also, for those who are listening, her name was Barbara the Grey Witch. She was a psychic out of South Bend, and she has a lot of history. She's no longer here, but um, she was known as like a black magic person growing up.
mhm,
Like that was like what her I want to say she had like an album that was like I think like a satanic album.
mhm,
Um, which is really interesting because when I met her, she was like late 70s, early 80s, or
Oh,
I think
wow.
she was 74, 75 then. So she has since lived a full life,
Mm-hmm.
and it was helpful because I've had experiences with like really bad energy, and
Mm-hmm.
she gave me the tools that I needed to like navigate that, which was nice. But she would stress like blessing everything. She's like your tarot cards, if you're reading them on like a board, like she would bless a Ouija board that she would then read the
Mm.
cards on, and then like incense to bless the energy in the room. Like any seances that we would do, she would like just thoroughly make sure like things were
You know
clear.
what's so weird? I literally have incense that say
Mhm.
blessing incense, and those are the
Yeah,
only incense that I have.
yeah.
That's
And
so
it's
weird.
like, and her reasoning, if I remember correctly, was if you don't do that, it's not that something bad will happen, but
Hmm.
you open up the portal of the energies for things that are not in your highest alignment or whatever to come in. And if that happens, things don't go over well.
Right.
Um,
Yeah,
yeah.
that makes sense. Well, since like my dad has passed on, I kind of like chose him to be our protector of things because he was like
Mhm.
that in the physical. So I was just like, okay, well, if y'all could have souls and do things, then there's a bunch of you on the other side. Y'all could fight the demons, right? What else are
Mhm.
you there for,
Yeah.
really? So I try
And
to say those things to them, like protect me.
yeah, and that's huge. Like having, or like evenly leaning into that, I think it's helpful for sure.
Yeah, because when I figured out that my sister had a portal in her room, like I was a little bit jealous. I was like,
Mhm.
what? Like I'm the one reading tarot every day. Like I'm the one who deserves the portal. Um, but when I moved into my salon suite, I chose a room that was very secluded. It was like I wanted it because I wanted it to be quiet, more or less. And also, it was just like in a little creviced hallway. And
Mhm.
if you look at like the blueprint of the place, like I'm in the heart of the place. And there is this lady who was in my hallway who was very witchy. She like changed her whole, she rebranded her whole thing to like being like very like Halloweeny and like more dark, and she was before like oceany, like mermaid
Mhm.
stuff, which was totally not her personality. So basically, I went to her and I was just talking to her, and I sent my sister to her, who is a witchy person, and it just so happens to be they got along great. She goes to her every month now. And when I saw this lady after I sent my sister to her and I was talking to her, I guess my sister like told her some things and she was like, "Oh, like I didn't know you guys were like really, really like spiritual." I was like, "Yeah." She's like, "Okay, well then I'll tell you. There's a portal in your suite." And I was like,
Mhm.
I knew
Oh
there
yeah,
was
we've talked
something
about this.
in
Yeah.
there. Yeah.
Yeah.
Because of just the energy that I felt in there. And something told me when I was in there, like, no, no, this is where you belong. The work that you do, this is where you're going to do it. And I've had so many, I've only been open there for like 8 months now. I have had so many experiences with clients already. 90% of the time, people get emotional in there. Like I always tell them, like, it's okay. People cry in here all the time, but they feel such a big like release and a
Mhm.
relief from it. And I always get like the same sentence, like I feel like I'm floating or I feel just lighter. And I want to believe that because of the energy that I hold, I don't have to close the portal. I could keep it open for whoever needs to be helped through that.
Yeah. Yeah, that's huge. Yeah, I was going to say, have you are you aware of the portal like energetically yourself? Like can you feel it? I don't know. Like are you
Well, I didn't know that that's what I was feeling.
Mhm.
I'm just so observant and I'm just like, well, that didn't happen there and I didn't feel it
Mhm.
in this room. Like I toured like a couple of suites and like I
Mhm.
felt something different in that one. So but I
Yeah.
didn't know that I
Yeah,
was
I
feeling
see.
a portal. But the lady told me, she's like, "Yeah, when I cleansed my room, like I watched them run into yours." And then they
Yeah.
came back and then
Yeah.
she thinks they go back and forth, but she definitely feels like my room is where they go back and forth from like source type of energy
Hmm.
or whatever. Um, but weird enough, now I'm making connections right now. When she told me that there was a portal in my room, I was slightly freaked out. So I went in there and I chimed and I sounded everything. And I was like,
Hmm.
if you're not good, get out. If you're not good, get out. Like, blah, 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 blah. And now that I'm putting two to two together, now from that moment was actually when my car started fucking up.
That's so crazy.
They're fucking with me then. They're like, girl, you were
So
trying to get us out.
I will piggyback off of
Ah.
that. The one of the nights that I did a seance, it was with a group of people. It was with the witch that I mentored under.
Mm-hmm.
I had a friend there who would go with me frequently, and she lived like hour and a half ish away from my house. So I would like, commute there essentially. And on the way home from that night, I it was really intense. We actually had a male like come in on the seance, like a male energy, who was later then he essentially told us how he died. And I was like,
Mm-hmm.
oh, okay, that's cool. Maybe she's like putting on an act. Like there's just all these like variables that come to that. And that's a
Right.
whole other experience of a conversation to be had. But 2 weeks later, he was in the newspaper and it was exactly how he said, which was insane. But night of seance, I'm driving home, um, and it's a very long drive, and my tire shot off of my car.
Hmm.
And it's like 2 a.m. at this point. It's like maybe midsummer, very late. And then so my girlfriend at the time came and got me. And when she came to get me and my friend, she had hit like she pulled over in like an old church, like doubled as a cemetery,
Mm.
and we're like out in the middle of nowhere. Like I'm saying, like there's nothing out here. And her like pan on the underneath of her car scraped something, and her
Mm.
car like it basically ripped out all the transmission fluid from her car. So her car was like not operating. So then she had to call her mom to come get us,
Oh
which
my
was
gosh.
which was insane. Um, and it's
Wow.
like I hate to say it, that is what caused it,
Mm-hmm.
but it's like the
Well,
correlations are like way too close.
well, that's what I'm thinking about now that I just said the whole story. And I'm like,
Yeah,
hold on.
yeah.
I tried to cleanse them out of the room, but I did it in I probably should have been a little bit nicer because I was just
Mhm.
kind of like, get out, get out, get out, get out. Like, I don't want to deal with this, like, blah, blah,
Yeah.
blah. So I feel like maybe because I assumed negatively when I don't
Mhm.
know, they didn't do anything wrong with to me. I've been like super successful there for only being there for like 8 months. So I wonder if that was like consequence back and they're like, girl, we're not messing with you, but now you want us gone, now we'll mess with you a little bit. And now we're gonna make
Yeah.
it's harder for you to get here.
Which is so strange.
That's fun.
Yeah.
Well, I hope you guys forgive me now. So let me fix my car. Let me go back. Wow, that's crazy. Oh my
Yeah.
gosh. This is oh.
Do you have anything you want to add? And we're like hitting an hour.
Oh, really? Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Okay.
Mhm.
Um no, I feel like that's good. Having real making a realization from the episode, and I feel like it's nice to
Mhm.
end off on because now I'm just sitting there like, fuck, do I have to go back? I thought, okay, did Barbara tell you what offering to make them if you're sorry?
Yeah. So if you're, well, no. It was a preemptive thing. Like if something happened, you're just expected, the way she said it was just like she would always preface like the seance she would preface with just be careful of your energy because you
Mm-hmm.
could be followed home essentially. um which opens up the story of like the place that she lived was
Mm-hmm.
essentially just a giant portal next to a funeral home. And so
Wow.
just a lot of weird stuff happened there. It just when
Mm-hmm.
I was there, but also stories from her. um but doing what you normally do, just
Mm-hmm.
being kind. and saying like, okay,
Right.
I hear you, I see you, like, but please stop, like, no more. Um,
Well, I still want them to connect because I knew something was happening because like I can connect to people. Like I feel like passed on loved ones, like they try to connect with me because they know that I'll pay attention. But I kind
mhm.
of feel like being in that space, like gave it just like an extra oomph to it. Where like when I was massaging some lady, I moved the necklace on her throat because I didn't want to just like leave it on her throat. Like I felt like that might be uncomfortable. And when I moved it from her throat, the music in my suite turned off. And I just like said it lightheartedly. I'm like, "Oh, you
Mhm.
have any passed on loved ones?" And she was like, "Yeah, actually, you just touched her necklace." And I was like, "Oh." So I was like massaging her arm or her hand or
That's
something.
so strange.
Yeah, I was like, this happened like last week. And I was
Yeah.
massaging her like forearm area, like right here.
Mhm.
And I just kept hearing, tell her I love her, tell her I love her, tell her I love her. And it just wouldn't stop. And I was like, oh my God, I'm only 5 minutes into this session. Like, you got to be kidding me. Like, there's no way you're going to repeat like a broken record for another 55 minutes.
Mhm.
And then I got to her other arm, and right there, she had a tattoo, I love you, stop growing up. And I was like, and then I just kept massaging, kept going. And then, like, at the end of the session, we were talking, and she was like, no, I believe in all this stuff. Like, I went, I saw a medium, like, whatever. And then I was like, okay, well, I'll tell you then. And then I told her, and I was like, I don't know if it's connected, but this is what I was hearing. And when I got to your other arm, it said, I love you. So, like, is that your sister? Like, is that tattoo for her? And she's like, yeah. And then she just broke down and cried, but in like a good way, like a good cry
Yeah.
way. So, like, I want the energy of the portal. I just don't want I want there to be like a security guard at it.
Mhm. Yeah.
Yeah.
No, that's fair. Yeah, it's weird, but you probably shouldn't. I think if you're not protected or protecting yourself in any way, you probably shouldn't dabble. Not you, just like in general.
Right,
People
right.
shouldn't fuck with it.
Because it was like
Um,
right when I told them to leave, my car
mhm.
started to, and I didn't talk to them at all. Like I was just talking to like my spirit guides. So I feel like they were just kind of like, no, you leave. Like we've been
Yeah,
here, you know?
yeah, which is it's intense.
So this is what we have for this episode. Time to go bless my suite. On the next episode, we are going to talk about karma, manifesting, and how those two align and intertwine with each other.
Yes, and if you guys have had any crazy dream stories, share them below in the comments. That would be great. And we'll see you next time.
Bye.